So we know you've been very busy. We know you've got a flight to get on after this, and I think you said 7 flights in the next 24 hours. So thank you very much for being here. We know you've been busy chatting with around the tariffs, and the latest ASB Talbot Mills research shows that 67% of businesses are concerned about the tariffs. So I just thought here's a great opportunity for you to give us an update, please, on your discussions with the US trade representative and what's been achieved out of those discussions.
So the United States trade representative is the same as trade minister, so my counterpart. He's got a bigger economy and an aeroplane. I don't, so it takes me longer to get there.
We have an aeroplane, mate, but it just breaks down a lot.
That's true. Anyway, I've had a chance to meet with him in person 4 times around the world and in Washington. Had lots of Zoom calls, and we message a fair bit, actually. I get to get the balance right of messaging to talk about the things important to New Zealand, and not so much I bother him and you get higher tariff rates. But the point here is it's very, very clear. President Trump campaigned on a tariff agenda, and that's what he's doing. Yeah. When I went up to Washington, as well as meeting politically the agriculture and trade people, you meet a lot of others who are involved in the administration, who are commentators. Some of them are very close to the administration. And what's very, very clear here is the president has decided that he has a new tariff regime and he's going to raise money. And so New Zealand are seen as the good guys. The average tariff rate for US goods into New Zealand is 0.3%. When I met with my counterpart, I said, mate, you can have it. It actually doesn't mean anything to us. Yeah. But we hit with a 10% tariff rate as every country of the world was 10% or more. And you will have seen recently it went up to 15%, for the simple reason that the president decided every country of the world that ran a trade surplus against the US last year, i.e. sold them more than they bought, is 15% or more, and it doesn't matter where you are. So we're now talking about how we can get greater certainty for our exporters. For most people that are exporting to the US, many of them have been able to pass that tariff rate on. It's a very big beef market for ours. Our beef has a 10% tariff on it. We are selling them more beef now than we were before the 10%. In fact, last month we exported more to the US than we did the same month a year ago when the tariff rate was at 0. And that's because the US needs more beef. They don't have enough. By the way, they need more wood to build their houses. They don't have enough. Yes. So the cost is being passed on and US consumers are paying more. But the biggest challenge we have is the uncertainty. So if you want to export to the US and you have to go and negotiate a contract, if you don't know what your tariff rate is going to be next week, let alone next year, it's very hard to know whether you should put effort in. So I have officials there every month up in Washington. I'll be back up there again soon. And we're talking about, of course, getting the tariff rate down, but how can we give New Zealand exporters the certainty that they need in that market, be able to make informed decisions about whether or not they're going to make or lose money.
Thank you. That's a really good explanation. Should the film industry be concerned?
Well, I woke up this week and started talking about films in America, not something I thought I would at the beginning of the week on TV1, right? So the New Zealand film industry are concerned, of course, because tariff rates are harmful. It makes it hard to trade. It puts costs up to consumers. You have less choice. But actually, they are exceptional at what they do in New Zealand. And so yesterday I was able to have a very... Have we got media in the room?
Yes. The Rotorua Daily Post.
I'll change what I was going to say slightly.
But we're all friends here.
I had a Zoom call set up with a couple of actors and film producers in New Zealand and some from Hollywood who are making movies around the world at the moment to see what Hollywood thinks and what they think is going to happen. And these producers out of Hollywood said, we're still going to come down and make films in New Zealand. We're not sure what the cost will be. We don't know what President Trump's going to do. He said, but that's our headache in Hollywood, although he's told us not to take Panadol. It's our headache, he said. But they've said about a third of the film industry in New Zealand comes from Hollywood, 2/3 comes from the rest of the world. So we're still going to make films here, and the world will want to make more films, but for a small period of time, everybody's sitting here wondering what will the next social media announcement be and how will it actually work. And so it's just part of that uncertainty that, by the way, I was in Malaysia last week with about 12 other trade ministers ministers from similar like-minded countries. Every country of the world is facing the same uncertainty we are.
That's right. Yeah, we're not alone.
Can I say, Melanie, I think the thing on the film thing is also, just remember, film has got creative components to it, digital effects, everything that comes often in American-made film as being components of it made all around the world. And so how you separate all of that, let's see what the detail looks like before we go too far. Yeah. The only thing I'd just say is that there is still a world of massive opportunity. And even having lived in America for 8 years, it's a country of 360 million people.
Yes.
And so you as an exporter need to understand your consumer and which niche of consumer you're going after and which channels you and what the margin of those channels looks like so that you can sell your products into there. Our exports to the US are up about 6%, I think, in the last 12 months. So despite all of that, our economy's growing, is probably going to grow around, if we're at 2% or whatever it is going to be, that's pretty good progress. Yeah. But the bigger issue is that there is a world of massive opportunity for New Zealanders because we have 500 million middle-class people sitting in China at the moment. We have 440 million middle-class consumers sitting in India at the moment. We have massive opportunities in Southeast Asia, so there is a lot of opportunity, and what's been good is to see New Zealand be really agile. Our trade with the UK grew 21% last year with the UK, traditional market, grew 27% with the EU. So a lot of the work that Todd's been doing, pulling forward those agreements, getting the GCC, getting the UAE, him and I working together on India, all of that stuff, getting rid of non-tariff barriers, $750 million worth of them. That just says there's now a lot of opportunity. So we create the operating system, but we need our New Zealand firms to go out there and want to smack it in the world and really go to town on it. So move between your markets, know your consumer, don't just consign it all off to someone to do a third-party brokering operation. Get into it and understand it and build the business.
Yeah. Awesome.
If I may, just one other thing, you'll have seen earlier in the week also announcement of tariffs on wood products, and we have wood in this area. It's very important to us. It goes up to the US, and so New Zealand will face a 10% tariff, whereas since the beginning of the year it's remained at 0 for our wood that goes up there because the US has been doing an investigation. So the 10% in itself is a challenge because the wood processing industry, their margins are not great and it's very, very competitive. The reason they buy wood from New Zealand is they need it to build houses. They don't have enough of their own. And I think the president wants more forest to be planted, but a pine forest in the US takes 30 to 35 years or longer to mature. Ours, much sooner, we have the wood. So in the meantime, they still need to build houses. They'll keep importing it. So whilst the tariff rate in itself is harmful, that will get passed on. And although it will be challenging and uncertain for a while for these Rotorua businesses, we will get through it. But they get a lot of wood from Canada and other countries of the world. Those guys are facing a 35 to 47% tariff. So they are less competitive than we are. The cost of building the house, if it's Canadian wood, is higher. Where do you reckon they will look? They'll look down towards New Zealand. So even with a tariff regime, if Americans are still spending money because they need to live in houses, I bet Kiwi businesses do well there.
That's awesome. Thank you both very much. That's been so good to hear a lot more of the detail that we don't really always see in the media and etc. So thank you for your contribution to the conversation today.